You get the red?
Yep.
All right, you're recording. All right.
All right. My first question is, what is your birth date?
My birthday, 10/6/24.
Okay. And were you drafted or did you enlist?
I enlisted. You hold it.
Okay.
When you're speaking, and I'll have it.
Okay.
I was 17. I was 17. I celebrated my 18th birthday at Newport, Rhode Island, boot camp.
And how long did you serve?
3 years.
3 years. So you were 20 by the time you were done?
Right.
Okay. What was your commanding officer like, and what were the people like who served under you and around you?
We didn't get to know the commander. Several thousand of us at Newport. Classes and drills and, of course, kitchen duty, which everybody just loved.
What was the hardest part about being in the military?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What was the hardest part about
The hardest part? The hardest part for me was actually getting injured in the service in 1945 when I was blown up. And I've been carrying shrapnel in me ever since.
And what did you think about President Roosevelt?
Being 17 years old, I considered the man the closest thing to a saint, maybe. But in subsequent history, I found that through my readings that he was hardly a saint. You got the bad news, sir? I do.
What did you think about Eleanor Roosevelt?
I had no opinion at all about Eleanor, only that she showed up at an awful lot of camp meetings, etc. And I guess she did an awful lot in her own way to bolster the morale of the people.
And why did you choose to serve?
Why did I
Why did you choose to serve?
Well, at that time, we had been attacked nefariously by the Japanese, and the spirit of Americanism was permeating throughout the whole country. And I felt it was my patriotic duty to do what little I could to contribute to this great country.
Do you remember what you were doing or where you were when Pearl Harbor was attacked?
It was on a Sunday at approximately 11 o'clock, and I was working as a soda jerk at Walsh's confectionery store, and the word came across that the Japanese had bombed Pearl Harbor, and not even knowing where Pearl Harbor was, we rushed to try to find out where it was on a local map.
And what was your reaction to that?
Shock, dismay, and anger.
And what were the conditions of Guam while you were there?
When we arrived on Guam, we lived in tents. Mud was everywhere, and they hadn't begun rebuilding Quonset huts, which later came several months later. We were too busy in putting in aircraft landing spots. But I was impressed with the island. It was sort of like one out of one of the Tarzan movies. And it was beautiful, and there was an awful lot of rain. That's accounted for the vegetation.
And why were you stationed in Guam?
Why was that?
Why were you stationed there?
Well, part of my duty was servicing carrier aircraft. And toward the latter end of the war, it was not unusual to see a B-29 come in on our landing strip, just riddled with aircraft or anti-aircraft holes. It was quite an experience, and I wouldn't want to wish it on anybody.
What sort of hardships did you face during World War II?
Other than standing in the rain while you're getting meals and kind of primitive living. But as the time went on, it got better to the point where we began having showers, and which comprised 50-gallon gasoline drums. And then the CBs came in and they started putting in Quonset huts. And one funny example was I had a friend who was attached to a destroyer. And it happened to be on a Sunday, and we were going to mess. And he came over for lunch. And we came through the chow line, and we sat down after he loaded up his tray, and he says, "Gee, you guys really have it made here." He says, "Yeah, even you get raisin bread." I says, "Well, you look at that raisin bread, and you'll notice it has legs." So that was it. We got a big kick out of that. One aspect was not all work and eating and jokes and what have you. There was a serious aspect of the duty. There was a contingent of Japanese holding out on the other end of the Iraqi peninsula, and they were a constant threat, and even to the point where the company put out a big sign that no one was to go beyond a certain limit, and several Marines did, and they ended up very much mutilated. And that was a sobering thought to anybody who could read.
What were your reactions to D-Day, and do you remember what you were doing when it occurred?
Naturally, we were overjoyed with that, and we were still doing the same routine, still checking aircraft as though the war was still on. And we continued to read the newspapers and listen to the radio for the good news.
Were there any shortages of any items while you were serving?
No, we had everything that we could want. Of course, there were no women over there, except for a couple of Red Cross girls, and we had USO troop, I believe, and one spot we had Bob Hope show up, and at one point in my career when I was recuperating from the injuries, I operated the movie projector, and I was housed in a Quonset hut, and we had maybe 500 or 600 Marines and Navy men that would participate and watch the movies. And you can imagine what would happen when the film would break. And fortunately, I was encased in a Quonset hut because they were throwing everything at me until I could splice the film. And nothing was seriously done or injured.
Were there some things that you used in place of other items that you didn't have?
Do I have a what?
Were there some things that you used in place of other items?
No, no.
What was your occupation before you served?
I had just got out of high school and working part-time in a confectionery store.
And how did the war affect you and your family?
The war, being 17, going on in 20 when I got out, I was still single, and I was looking forward to going to school. And while at school, finishing college, I met my future wife, and she is still hanging around here.
What was your reaction when you heard we were at war?
Shock and dismay and anger.
And what was your rank?
I was a aircraft technician, 3rd class.
And at the time of the war, were you in a relationship or single? Did you say single?
Yes.
You were single? Okay. Where did you live during the war, and were you in Guam the entire time?
No, I started off going to Newport at the boot camp. Then I spent a year in Guantanamo Bay, and from Guantanamo Bay I went to the West Coast, and we went out to Guam, and I finished up in 1946 on Guam, and came home and became a civilian.
What was your least favorite thing about where you were stationed?
I believe the rain. It was an awful lot of rain, and things got a point where it was sopping, and the dew was something that started eating away at your leather and what have you. But if that was the least we had to worry about, I consider myself lucky.
Right. And what type of accident did you have?
I was, as I mentioned, I was a radar technician, and part of our jobs was to install destructors, which are approximately about the same size as a cigarette. And we had to put a dozen or so of those in the back of IFF gear. Now, IFF stood for Identification, Friend or Foe, Radio Equipment. And that would, by putting in the detonators, should the plane crash, the detonator would go off and burn out all the coils where the enemy would not be able to determine what the codes on that we were currently using. And it was, at that time, the time of the accident, I was just about ready to get aboard a plane and install the detonators, and they had turned on the aircraft radar system, and I was about 10 feet away, and the radar beam hit me and detonated the detonators, and I ruined a perfectly good shirt. And also I was hit in the face and in the eye, and thank God I didn't lose my eyesight. But I have, for the past many years, I've suffered with pain from approximately 200 pieces of shrapnel in me, and my hearing is not up to snuff. That's about all that I could say.
Yeah. And how was it treated?
very well by the VA that I would go in periodically, and they would prescribe medications. Upon being hit by the explosive, I went up to we had a tent for the medical, and I was pretty well covered with blood and what have you, and I had to crawl in underneath the fence, and I came upon the pharmacist who was on duty, and he looked at me, and I must have been a pretty grotesque figure, because he said, "What happened to you? Did you get hit by a propeller?" And I said, no, I was in an explosion. So he said, "Are you in pain?" And I said, "Oh, well, yeah, I'm still kind of in shock." And he said, "Well, can I give you a shot?" And I said, "No, thanks, I don't drink." So then they put me in, and they had no antibiotics as such, only penicillin that they used, and they sprinkled that liberally over my chest. And in the excitement, the pharmacist or the medical corpsman put the battle dressing on backwards. So the absorbent was on the outside, and all the adhesive and that was on the inside. So needless to say, the next morning when the doctor came through, he didn't appreciate that, and he let it be known that there are a bunch of idiots who were trying to help me.
What type of duties did you have when you were in Guam?
Just servicing aircraft. It was nothing to go to service 20 or 25 planes in the course of the evening. We were on the evening shift because during the day it was so hot that we took advantage of the coolness, such as it was at night.
Did you develop any friendships during training or the activity itself? And can you tell me about them?
Yes, but it was a very fleeting. The memory it didn't last that long because we kept changing, going from one island to the other. No lasting friendship that I carried over into civilian life.
What was your family's reaction to the war?
The family, there was no real feeling that I could discern. My father was the only one. My mother had died earlier when I was in the 4th grade. So he was a police officer. And it was just one of those things. I think the Americans were just very quiet about their feelings toward this. And they were, I guess you could say they were in a state of shock to think that something horrendous like that could happen. But as years go by, you can expect almost anything today. And sometimes I'm afraid to pick up the newspaper for fear of what the news will portend.
What were some of the first changes in your life after the war started?
Which one? After getting out of the service, I just waited around and tried to more or less find myself and get used to a normal routine until I started off to school. And then I proceeded to go to school and stick to it. And that was incidentally where I met my wife. She was a senior and I was a junior, and well, actually a junior and a half. And we got married, and I continued at Boston University and Emerson College. And she went to work in Jackson Heights, Long Island. And then we started, when I finished school, I moved into New York State.
And what different kind of responsibilities did you have to take on? Like, what was your job like after, and what kind of stuff did you have to do differently?
After school, I was employed by American Airlines in the reservations department, and it wasn't unusual to have maybe Frank Sinatra call and some other of the Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall to see them when I would take time off. We had the American Airlines, which I worked for. They had, I believe they called it a Hollywood Express, and it took off at about midnight. And the Hollywood celebrities would all flock out there and go back to Los Angeles. And it was quite an interesting situation.
And how did you entertain yourself outside of work?
Reading primarily, and that's about it.
Did you or others get married during wartime? I know you said you didn't, but...
After the war, I had, let's see, no, I don't recall that any of my friends got married after the service. In fact, I didn't get married until 4 years after I got out of service. And I don't know what happened to the few friends that I did have, like kids that I grew up with. There was a distance between us, my living in New York City and living in Massachusetts.
Did you ever worry that our side might not win the war?
No, I never did. I realized the strength and determination and the caliber of the American public to put their shoulder to the wheel and do the best they can and pray along.
Did you know anyone who was killed or wounded in the war?
There was a fella, I wouldn't say he was a real close friend, but he was a aviation maintenance man on machine guns and what have you. He was sort of an electrician. And part of his duty was when they would have target practice, the planes would take off, and they would have a sleeve, what they would use as a target, and they'd pull that up into the air, and then the pilots would practice by shooting. So at one particular time, the poor guy was holding down this target, and a plane came in and killed him. And it was a sad situation, because that was a rarity out there, accidents like that. We'd have pilots that would go out and not come back in, but this one hit close to all of us, do them.
And can you tell me about corresponding, like, through letters with family and friends?
I had correspondence with my Aunt Mame, who was just a font of information, and she kept me notified as to what's going on and all the things that usually happen in a family. And other than that, I didn't have any correspondence with anyone else.
What effect did the war have on your physical and mental health, or that of others you knew?
Well, regarding that, I spoke to that briefly about the explosion and the injuries that I suffered, and it's been with me for all these years, and and I'm under medication and some pretty powerful drugs to mitigate the pain, and it's a constant reminder, that I was injured, and that's been over 50 years. That's a long time, but I'm looking forward to. Well, at this point, I'm used to it, and just hope and pray that I live to be 110.
Do you think that medical care changed because of the war?
Yes, I would think so, because of the unique accidents and wounds that were suffered by the participants. That medicine, I think, came about to the point where they innovated and they did things now that were a mystery to us in the past, especially in the drug field.
Did you have worthwhile experiences because of the war?
I'm sorry, what?
Did you have worthwhile experiences because of the war?
Not particularly, no.
And what was your most memorable experience?
The most memorable experience that I had at the war was getting my reassignment to civilian living. Although as I say, I enjoyed the 3 years that I was there, even though I did get a few pains.
And who was the most memorable character?
General MacArthur.
And what was your most humorous experience?
The most what?
Humorous experience.
Humorous, well, the humorous was one humorous aspect, as far as I was concerned, was while I went through boot camp, I decided to become an entrepreneur and have somebody else do my laundry. One fella had an iron that he would press the clothes with, and the other 4 people weren't aware that I was slipping my skivvies into their water buckets until one day doom came about, and I came back from training and I found all my skivvies nailed on the washboard, and everybody was giving me the finger.
Have you visited any memorials or participated in any commemorations of the war?
No.
That was an easy question. Was there a lack of social opportunities and friends because of the war?
No.
Tell me about shortages and rationing of food and gas.
During the war?
Yeah.
No, we didn't. We didn't suffer from anything.
The civilians, but not the
Yeah. No, we had
did.
we had everything that we needed to forge a victory for America.
Did you have a victory garden or other ways to get enough food?
No, we relied strictly on our chefs, although sometimes we felt like shooting them.
Did you recycle rubber, grease, or other commodities?
During the war, as a civilian, the civilians did. They were using fat cans and rationing gasoline. It's comparable to the mood that we seem to be moving towards in this day and age.
And to what extent was there hoarding or black market activity in your area?
Well, I wasn't aware of any, but I imagine that it was rampant that is comparable maybe to illicit drugs now. Only it wasn't, I wasn't that interested in it in headlines and what have you. I wanted to get out of the service and get my life going after school.
And how did you feel about war news from the newsreels or from the radio?
We would get the news from the radio, especially down when I was in Cuba, which was so close to the United States, we could pick up American radio stations. And when we were out on Guam, we would get shortwave, and we didn't pay too much attention to that.
Or radio?
Newsreels.
Yeah, how did you feel about it?
Pertaining to what?
About like the war?
Oh, the
What
war.
was going on?
They were very, very interesting and very poignant, and we received an awful lot of information through the newsreels.
And what are some of the places you have been to during the war?
Went to, well, Norfolk, Virginia, Puerto Rico, Guantanamo Bay in Cuba, California, Hawaii, and Guam, and through Panama, and on the way back through New York and back into Chicago.
And when did you first hear about Adolf Hitler or Benito Mussolini or Joseph Stalin?
After I imagine it was in the first year of high school, which was in 1939.
And what was your knowledge and opinion about Germany and Japan before and during the war?
The information was very, I wasn't very much interested in it, being young. And all I knew is that when the war broke out between Germany and England, that we had to make a decision as to which side we're going to end up on. We started by Lend-Lease, and before we knew it, we were sending troops over, and Germany declared a state of war against us.
And what were your feelings about these world leaders?
I didn't know too much about them, only what I read in the newspapers, and although I had my suspicions about Joseph Stalin, his history didn't indicate that he was a friend of the United States.
What did you think about dropping the atomic bomb?
Being out in that general area and realizing that we stood a chance to lose 1 million Americans in invading Japan, I had to go along with it.
Right. Do you feel any differently about it now?
No, it still stands. We saved an awful lot of lives, American and Japanese.
Mm-hmm. And what did you do when you heard the news? And where were you on VJ Day and VE Day?
VJ Day and VE Day, I was on Guam in the South Pacific.
And how would you describe the ways that the war changed your life and those of others?
I believe the service matured me and gave me a discipline that I think that I wouldn't have had I not been in the service. And I felt very proud to be able to offer my services and blood, incidentally, to the United States.
And did you keep your job or continue other wartime activities after the war?
I was 17 when I went in, and I was 20 some odd years old when I came out, and I proceeded to go to college, and then that changed my life dramatically.
And how did you feel when the war ended?
Jubilation.
Is there one thought about your wartime experience that you want to share with future generations?
We should do our best to avoid foreign entanglements, and we should keep our guard up and be aware of what these politicians will say and do to get elected.
Without a song, the day would never end. Without a song, the road would never bend. When things go wrong, a man ain't got a friend without a song. That field of corn would never see a plow. That field of corn would be deserted now. A man is born, but he's no good, no how, without a song. I've got my troubles and woe, but sure as I know the Jordan will roll, I'll get along as long as a song is strong in my soul. I'll never know what makes the rain to fall. I'll never know what makes a man so tall. I only know there ain't no love at all without a song.